joined today by Expense on Demand, XU Magazine. We have worked with Expense on Demand for a while, and we're really liking what they're doing. And I thought it'd just be good to start to cover that in some more detail. We've got some practical stuff that we're going to go through. We've got a couple of guests joining it as well who are actually customers of Expense on Demand, which is really good because I like to have practical takeaways from these webinars, and you really get a feel of how it's used in real life, shall we say. So thanks to Arjan for joining us today from Bastion IT, and we've got Usman as well, who's coming in a minute, so it's a little bit held up. But first of all, can I hand over to Sunil to introduce himself and Expense on Demand, and probably do a much better job than I will at introducing himself.
Thank you, David. Thanks. My name is Sunil Nigam. I'm the founder of Expense on Demand. The company was founded in 2003, so we've been there for a while, and we understand the domain extremely well. And one of the things that over the years we have realized or come to learn or understand is to keep things very simple. And I'm going to just share a video with you before I start talking a little bit more about the things that we do and how we help SMBs, so that, and I'm hoping that video is going to give you a vision into how we like to keep things simple. So let me just share my screen with you quickly over here. Right, so here we are. Right, let me. So let me stop. We'll share the sound.
If you claim expenses, you know there are better ways to spend your time, right? Well, I've found this great expenses app that makes it all so much easier. When I'm out, I just take photos of my receipts and data is extracted automatically, or I can enter information myself. Either way, it's really quick and off it goes to the cloud. Back in the office, the finance people review my claims to reimburse me, and data automatically syncs to their finance system. If you want, you can add functions to suit your business, but you only pay for what you use, so the ongoing cost is really low. It's called Expense on Demand. Is this the best expenses app in the universe? Take the free trial and you decide. If you claim expenses...
Hey, Usman, how are you? Good to see you.
I'm good, how are you? Thank you, guys. Sorry, I'm a bit late. My link wasn't there before, so.
No problem, Yeah. So you saw the video, this is how simple you like to keep things, okay? And so let me give you a little bit of the history over here. So we started the company, we built an enterprise application where we had, large customers in the NHS, from the public sector, companies, businesses having 5, 10, 50, 20,000 employees, And then I realized, I said, look, the real opportunity is in the SMBs, companies or businesses who employ between 10 and 200 people, or 300 people, depending which country you are in, And we said, okay, let's offer these companies the capability of enterprise, what they see at prices which are, which wouldn't break the cost an arm and a leg for them. So what we did was we said, okay, companies can buy functions which they, only use. They can only, they pay for functions that they use. And they also pay as you go. Okay. That's one of the ways we are different from everybody else. So we have over here Aryan, who's been using Expense on Demand for the last over several years, and Usman just under a year, I reckon, And just want to ask Usman first, so Usman, how's your experience been? Have things been simple?
It's pretty much simple, to be honest. It's not really compared to what we were using before. It's a lot simpler, straightforward, and giving us the information which we're looking for, really. Especially what, as you said before as well, what you can pick and choose what you want to use and all that, and pay for actually what you're using, which is quite handy as well.
Right, great. Thanks, Usman. And Aryan, what has your experience over the last so many years been using Expense on Demand?
Yeah, very good, Sunil. Thanks for asking over here. Well, I was used to use paper, so I lost my receipts, or let's say my colleagues' receipts. So therefore, payment would be, a pain. I was missing all the reports. I could not see, you know, where the company was spending basically the money. So yeah, it gives me a lot of insights and a lot of good thoughts on the whole usage. So it did help me a lot.
So, you know, we like to use a term called productivity on demand, you know, where essentially, you know, people aren't spending hours, days, weeks, and months to, pay the employees. So if you look at a typical, manual system, which is quote unquote simple, somebody on an Excel or on a piece of paper makes a claim, attaches the receipt to it, totals up the whole thing, send it to the approvers, which might take 2 or 3 days. Okay. Approver sends it back. There's a lot of to and froing happening. It goes to finance. Some receipts are missing and all that stuff. Okay. Now, some of the customers have come onto our platform, especially during the COVID period. They said to us that some of the employees were getting paid. It was taking as long as 5 months to get them to pay them the expenses. Okay. In our case, a mobile, or at the receipt, submit the expense, goes to the approver, approves it, goes to finance, as you saw in the video, uploads into the accounting system automatically, and you're done. So theoretically, you can get paid within 10 minutes, not 5 months, not 3 months, not 4 months. Okay. So when I said we like to keep things simple, and that is what I call simple, within minutes, not weeks, not months, So, as the topic is that hybrid working has been there for a long time. This is not something which is new. But the difference today is that you used to come to the office in the early days. You would sort of come in, submit your claim to the approver or to your finance people, and then you'd probably go home, maybe work from there. But today, all the teams have moved away from the office. I know Span is an office, and I know even Aryan is an office, but who knows tomorrow, there could be a mini lockdown. All right. And you are home. Now, in the cloud, it doesn't matter wherever you are, whether you're in Timbuktu, claimant submits expenses, it goes to the approver, wherever they are, doesn't matter. So you're not coming to the office, you submit your expenses. So I think companies, especially the SMEs, recognize that the benefits of cloud and true remote and true hybrid working now. I'll give you an example. I think 3 weeks ago, Wells Fargo, the analyst wrote a paper on automation. And what he argued in his paper was that the banks in the US will be spending about $200 billion for the next 5 years on automation. Now, when I read that document, I said, are these guys building a rocket or something, as complex as that? And what that reminded me of is when people ask you about automation, they always wonder something like a Rolls Royce, expensive, difficult to maintain, and all those things, And when you show people that automation, at least from our perspective, costs 50, 100, 200 pounds a month, we're going to automate the whole process. It takes, I don't know, Sman, how long it took you, a day, 2 days, 3 days to, automate a whole, you're on mute, Usman.
Sorry, just a couple of days, but it was in between other tasks as well, so it wasn't really.
Sorry, say again?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, can you repeat that again, please?
Yeah, just roughly about a couple of days, I would say.
Couple of days, yeah.
Yes.
And Aryan, what was your experience in terms of, sort of going live from the time you started got this, people onboarded?
Well, not so long, although I don't know, not so long. I had to find out all basically the flows and the options, what was possible, because coming from a paper way of working, straight into the automation that, it took me, several hours, but it was pretty quick. We started with some basic functions, and later on we added some more complex items.
Right. Okay. So when we compare this to our enterprise application, so you are looking at least 10 days of implementation time. Okay. 3 months of elapsed time or from elapsed time. And over here, you're looking at as Osman said, a couple of days, and Aryan said a few hours, literally, this is as much as that, So what we try to do is to actually bring to the SMBs the functions which should have cost 200 billion at 20, 30, 40, 50 pounds a month. Automation doesn't mean 200 billion or a rocket, or doesn't mean a Rolls Royce. It means just simply, keep life simple and easy for these guys. I don't know, Osman, what your claimants feel about the application, because they're the real customers for you,
To be honest, mostly it's positive feedback. There's not much negative to it, but people who use it quite a lot, but their complaint is something which you can't do anything about. It's like, is there a way to not put the invoices and stuff? But if you do more expenses, you have to spend more time on it. Other than that, there is no negative feedback.
So I said again, couldn't hear that one. What did they say?
So the only thing which you hear about it, the only negative thing, but it's not a negative as such, is if you do a lot more expenses, you'll have a lot more invoices put on there. So that's the only thing they keep complaining about. Oh, why do you have to keep adding invoices? But unfortunately, that's something which has to be done. Other than that, there is no negative feedback which I've heard from anyone who is using it.
You mean attaching receipts and all that?
Yeah, attaching receipts and all that. And it's like, can you not do it without it? No, you can't.
Yeah. We have a function, where you can actually send the receipts to receipts@ExpenseOnDemand.com. It'll create an expense for you automatically. From your email, just send a receipt directly to receipts@ExpenseOnDemand.com.
So you mean will it select the category as well, as in which category it needs to go to and all that as well?
It'll create an expense. It is not so smart. What it'll do, it'll capture the receipt. Okay. It'll capture the date. It'll do those two things. You select the expense type, fill in the amount. Okay,
right.
And you submit the expense. But you also know that we can scan the expense where it selects the date automatically, the supplier, and the amount automatically.
So because some of our invoices, they come from like China and Hong Kong and stuff like that, like marketing one, which is from all over the world. So will that pick it up properly, as in, because different language and all that as well?
Well, what it will do, it'll actually, when you send it to receipts@ExpenseOnDemand.com, it will create an expense for you automatically. Okay. And the claimant then has to actually just select the expense type, which is, your expense category, put in the amount and the date, and you're done.
Right. Okay. And what's the time frame on that? As in, if they do it,
it's there. It's already there. It's all there.
No. What I mean is, if I am to upload an invoice there now, how long will it take for the invoice to appear on my expense type, so I can set the category?
Within minutes.
Within minutes, right?
Yeah.
That's something which, especially the marketing side, they will be happy, because to be honest, they get like hundreds of invoices every month. So that's
we should talk separately. We'll sort of give you more solutions. All that.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. And Aryan, what about your claimants and your approvers? Your colleagues who are using the application.
Let's say in the beginning they had to use a little bit, or get used a little bit to the, let's say, new way of working, because they had the habits of collecting the receipts, let's say for a week, for a month, and then get all an Excel ready or an email ready or whatsoever. What they're doing now after a few years now, the moment they have a lunch or a dinner or entertainment, they just make a photo and off you go. And they keep the receipt, but they can toss it away as easy as it is. Yeah. So after, I think it took 6 months, to get used to that drill, because it was their habit. But now it's pretty easy.
So no receipts lost, no screaming and shouting and all none of those things.
No, happy team members now. Happy team members.
Expense policy all works. People can only spend within the limits and all those things. All that is happening for you guys.
Yes.
Is that the same thing happening for your team also? You could expense policies. You're not losing your sleep that people are overspending and things like that.
No.
Usman.
Second, sorry.
Yeah, I said, in your case also, have you turned on the expense policies where people spend within limits, and you're not losing sleep that people are overspending and things like that?
See, on ours, it's different. We don't have limits on them, so it literally they because it's pre-approved all those expenses for them, so they could spend whatever they want. So
it is free for all then?
Yeah, so it is a bit different, yes.
Should I be joining your company then? In that case, it's free for all. David, maybe you should be talking to Osman about working with him, you know.
I know, yeah, where do I apply?
Right. David, over to you. I mean, I have a lot of things to talk about, but obviously.
Yeah, no, thanks for that. So that's really useful. So, I mean, just it'd be good to as well for everybody else listening to the webinar, just get a little bit of background on you both now. Now we've got you both with us. So, if I could just start with you, Arjan, if you just want to give an introduction to your company, Bastion IT, just so everybody can get a background of sort of who you are and how you're using Expense on Demand within the business.
Yeah, that makes sense. So Bastion IT was founded in 2011, so 10 years ago. I started it myself, but you know, slowly we're getting on more and more team members over there to work. We are in the business of automating businesses, let's say office processes. Yeah, and you know, let's say while we were, you know, working with, let's say the expense items, you know, as in a paper trail, you know, we thought let's also automate this part. You know, drink your own champagne and practice what you preach over here. So that's why we found Expense on Demand and have been introducing that.
Yeah. And when you would obviously there's more expense systems out there. So what made you choose Expense on Demand when you were looking around at the market to fit into your business?
Flexibility over here. It was, you know, we were just starters, yeah, and Expense on Demand gave me the opportunity to start, let's say, basic with our basic flow, and then slowly add more features, you know, while we were, you know, as a company growing, you know, we don't need all the features straight from the beginning. So, and this was the only company who was offering me those features.
Brilliant. And just final question for me, what do you think the main benefit for the business is in terms of using Expense on Demand? You mentioned obviously losing information previously. Is that it, or is there something else?
Yeah. Yeah, we had some issues in the past with, you know, some lost receipts, you know, some unhappy employees over here. So you know, that's not good because, you know, the employees are my assets over here. So you know, if they are happy, then, you know, our customers are happy. So that was the main thing. Yeah, well, it also keeps, you know, our employees honest. We had, let's say, one issue where one of the employees was, you know, let's say, claiming their expense twice. Yeah, it was an accident, but yeah, you know, still the system detected it, and I was able, you know, to find it out even before, you know, payout, etc. So. Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, so that's good. So it saves time in terms of and risk of losing receipts, but also saves on potential fraud. Even if it was an accident, it does save on mistakes and fraud if it was intentional as well.
It was absolutely accidental. So
yeah, but it's a good fail-safe though if that was an issue within an organisation, wouldn't it?
Correct.
So, no, brilliant. That's really useful. Thank you very much for that. And Osman, thanks for joining us. So do you want to give a little bit of background about you and the company that you're part of?
Yeah, so Cellboy, I work for Cellboy Limited. So we work in like property development. Company started back in 2014. I only started like just over a year ago now. What we do is we are basically we buy the land, develop it, sell it, then rent it out and lease it and all that as well. So plus we are in lending business as well. So it's from start to finish in terms of the property development side of things. So with that business, as you can imagine, we have a lot of sales guys who are selling the properties and all that stuff, and a lot of marketing people as well. So which is the reason why we picked Expense on Demand. But the main reason was that the system we were using before that was simply giving you a limit of you can use certain amounts of you can buy a pack basically, which is giving you a certain amount of people which you can use, regardless of whether they're using it or not. You're still paying. The cost is still there for you. If you want to go up, then you pay a lot more. And it's simple. One of the biggest reasons why we moved to Expense on Demand was the cost. The previous system was a lot more expensive. As I said before, there's a certain, so you could potentially buy the initial one, the basic pack, which is giving you a staff of up to 20 people or whatever, and then going up to 50, and then so on and so forth. But here, especially with the sales staff, which keeps coming and going basically, so you're just simply paying for people who are using the app for expenses, rather than you're just paying for one lump sum, and then regardless of whether you're using it or you're just paying that money. So one was cost. Second was time. I think in terms of the system, I have before we joined Expense on Demand, I've looked at quite a few systems to see which is the best one to join. So one, it was integrating with Xero, which was a system we were using. So that was really good, saves time rather than posting data and all that. So which meant that it was saving us a lot of time in terms of the process. It was a lot straightforward process to approve the expenses, to stay on top of them. If anyone needs anything, we are on it straight away, rather than the previous system, which was a bit complicated, I would say. So for us, it was more about the cost, time saving, and a lot more simpler system than what we were using in the past.
Yeah, okay, that's brilliant. And what would you say, because that's what obviously you were looking for when you brought it in, and it seems to be ticking those boxes. Are there any other benefits as well that you've seen in terms of whilst using Expense on Demand within the business?
Yes, so I would say we have saved a lot of time on that. So in terms of what I would be looking from it, in terms of any addition, I've already talked to Sunil about it, I think, and the ball is in Xero's court at the moment, where Expense on Demand can only be linked to one company at a time. So which I think Sunil is working with Xero to see if it can be linked, especially credit cards, it can be linked with multiple companies rather than just one company. So that additional feature, I would say, would be really helpful, not just for us, for like other companies out there as well, who has got more than one companies, rather than just one company linking with one integrated system. So that would really help, I would think.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you very much. Oh, go on, Sonia.
Just to add to that, Usman, that's being tested right now, actually, as we speak. Being tested right
that's
now.
Good, yeah, sounds good.
Yeah, and we'll release that probably towards the end of November or early December, after proper testing and all that is happening. That's all being so. We have a couple of beta customers who are working with us on that right now.
Right.
We will stand by our word. You will get
that sounds good. Sounds good to me.
Yeah, I mean, the team is doing some brilliant work. We work with Xero very closely on this thing, and the stuff that we'll finally give you will be actually more than what we talked about a few months ago. You will have a lot many more things. With one click, you can export to 100 companies in one shot. Boom.
Right. That sounds good. Sounds good for us. Yeah.
Yeah. So you will see when I saw a demo of that about a week ago, and I was blown. Not that because but the guys done the work on it. I just absolutely blown away. With one click, Expense going to 27 companies.
Right.
And you could see in the background each company. It shows you what's happening. You can see all that stuff happening. You can go away, keep on doing it. It'll keep on giving you done. Things like that. That's being tested right now.
Sounds good. Yeah, sounds good. Looking forward to that then.
Yes. So I think, Usman, thank you very much for that. Your compliment. Even Arun, thank you very much for your compliments. I think, and as I said, David, to you earlier, that our goal has been to actually keep things really simple. And as I mentioned to you, it's not about spending 200 billion, and making the whole automation complicated or complex, And people have this belief that automation means complex. Answer is no. Automation for us means making it really simple, And that's the way we build the application. And I'm repeating myself over here that, you can buy, so you can start with the basic, which is literally a pound or €1, $1 or two Australian dollars. Start with that very basic, which is your claimant on the phone, approval on the phone, and you and the finance guys on the web. And then you can keep on adding functions as you go along. As you go along, the 30-day free trial, try the application, be our guest, And then you can keep on building. And what we are seeing and what we have seen is that typically companies will start with the basic, in a month's time, they maybe add 2-3 more functions. There are 100 functions, by the way, 100 functions. They'll buy 2-3 functions. And within 3 months, they're probably using 12 to 15 functions, but, not all the 100 functions, because we know from enterprise experience that people never use all the functions, but they're still paying for that whole lot. In our case, they only pay for what they use. As a young lady on the video said earlier, you only pay for what you use, and we stand by that. So just to give you another sort of anecdote over here. So in the past, typically a multinational used to be, a company with 1,000 employees. 1,000 in Singapore, 1,000 in Hong Kong, 2,000 in the UK, 3,000 in the US. All over the world, people, tens of thousands of people. I think today with technology, you have, a multinational with 100 people, for example. So your customer in Australia, they have 40 people in Australia, and they have 60 people outside Australia in 10 countries. And they were paying something like £6,000 a month equivalent for a system which would work for them all over the world. Today, they're paying £600. So all their employees, wherever they are, for example, in Hong Kong, in Malaysia, in Singapore, in the US, in the UK, they get all paid in the local currency. All local compliance happens. Everything automatically converts to Aussie dollars. The bookkeeping, the accounting is kept in a single place. They also have double books in other places, just to make sure they're compliant and all that stuff. I mean, Xero, for example, today in the cloud, you can access it anywhere. So, and it took these guys, they did a trial for 30 days. They went live in Australia within 15 days after that. And they went live globally within 8 weeks. Not that we could have gone live within 2 days, but I think, when you tell people that it is not complicated, it takes time for them to believe it's not really complicated. I wanted to get those guys on the call today, but Australia is a different time zone. But maybe next time. Yeah. So as I said, just to quickly summarize that, keep things simple, and make it available to what used to be very expensive, make it at a price which does not, basically bust your pockets, and you can really get productive, and do things in a very simple way.
No, that's great. Thank you very much for that. And I just want to say thank you as well to Usman and Arjan for jumping on today and it's given us some of your time. It's been really useful to get an insight from people who are actually sort of using the system on a daily basis. So really thank you very much for that. I'm just going to go on now to the Q&A section. So I've got a couple of questions myself for you, Sunil. So if you've got any questions, now is the time to ask them. I'm also going to put a poll up in a second as well, in terms of just seeing who wants to take up that offer for a 30-day trial. And we will be doing an email around after as well, including any links. So you've got that, but it's just to give us an idea. So one of the things that I just wanted to ask you to begin with is, obviously you're linking with Xero, we've referenced that a couple of times. Which other accounting systems does ExpenseOnDemand link in with, as well as Xero?
Yeah, so we link with Sage, Cloud 50, we link with QuickBooks, we also link with Tally. We have open APIs that link with any accounting system, any HR system, any payroll system, and with any CRM system. So we also adding over the next, year or so, we'll be adding another 10 integrations. And just as an aside, Arvind mentioned, sort of very briefly talked about, somebody who made the same expense twice. So we have a suite of 10 expense policies, essentially where you can put, limits, comply with the, how much you spend on entertainment per person, per night, per day, all those things we have, duplicate, all that stuff, we capture all that, So essentially some of our customers, where they were spending, even through automation, about 3 or 4 days in a month, they're now spending just maybe an hour or so the system takes care of everything it takes care of, So I see a little poll over here. Am I supposed to answer that also, or is it?
No, that's fine. That's
okay.
that's
We cannot vote. Right.
Yeah, they're filling that in. So
I don't think there's an answer over there for me as well. So I have closed that because I'm already with ExpenseOnDemand. So.
Yeah. So that's
fine.
at
the bottom.
So that's fine. So people are filling that in. So thanks for filling that in. If you've not seen that at the bottom yet, just click on the poll and that will pop up for you. Just a reminder as well, if you've got any questions, just to put them in now as well, because we're in that section. So a couple more from me, Sunil. So one of the ones that a lot of our readers like looking at is where you've got sort of partnerships for accountancy, bookkeeping practices, where they might have a number of clients that would be interested in using Expense on Demand. So I understand that you've got quite a good partnership program. So you just want to talk me through that and how that works for the listeners, so they get an idea if that's something that they're interested in.
Yeah, so we have a refer and earn program, which pays you 30% commission to anybody who brings on customers, So they need to be a user of Expense on Demand, and we pay 30% of the life of the customer, And so we have, within the app, if it's a complete suite, we can actually see, each of your customers, how are they using the application, how much money they're paying and all that, and we automatically pay you through Stripe. So, you sign up, you use the application, you could resell, you could talk to customers, That's the one angle we have. The other one also is that we have got quite a few accounting practices, small ones, people who maybe have 20 customers to 200 customers, who use our application to essentially, do the expenses piece, and then they'll put that into Xero, or into QuickBooks or Sage, depending whatever system they're using, or multiple systems, And we release by the end of December, the integration, the integration piece for any company where they could integrate at the same time with Xero, with QuickBooks, with Sage, at the same time. So in one single click of a button, you can export to any or all the three systems in one go, to n number of companies, That's, being tested right now, I mentioned to Usman earlier. In his case, there are only a few companies, I think probably 6 or 7. We're building it for n number of companies, n number of integrations also.
Yeah, that's really useful. Thank you. And I've had a question through from Sunita. Thank you very much for that. It says, how many or what's the minimum number of employees that you can use with Expense on Demand? Is there a minimum number?
Yeah, that's a good question. So the system can, you can start from 4 people to 4,000 people. You can scale instantly from 4 to 4,000 within minutes, literally you can do that, So yeah, so we kept for the smaller companies also where they want to automate, and larger companies who anyway need to automate, also manage the whole process well.
That's really good. So I've got a final question from me, Sunil. So you might be able to say this, you might not, depends how secretive they are. But have you got any exciting updates or new releases coming up in the pipeline that you can sort of share with the listeners today, to give them a teaser of what's coming down the line?
Yes, we have quite a few of them. Actually, one of them I talked about, when I talked about Usman, that's coming in December. There we are adding to our multi-country, multi-company a lot more muscle where you can actually have an expense policy at country level, at company level. You can have, for example, I'll give you an example. Let's say mileage is there. In the UK, we have a very different way of, capturing mileage, which is HMRC compliant. So if you had imagined a company with office in the UK, Australia, US, and India, in the same subscription, you can manage all that stuff. Okay. We're going to be bringing a travel piece. We're bringing integration with credit cards, bringing in quite a few other things. I mean, there are about 12 or 13 items coming, and some of our customers in Asia have been asking us to also, can we also bring in a sales automation piece? So that's a big one. We were talking to, we just done the initial design of that, speaking about 10, 12 customers, in Malaysia, Indonesia, India, Thailand, and seeing, what will it cost us, cost them, how real is it going to be? But I think, so what we are looking at is, in a sense, truly what I call productivity on demand. So you have a situation where your expenses, your sales, you have, remote attendance, remote leave management, also remote appraisal management. Looking at all of these things and see how we can do that. So it's exciting that next year will be a lot of, meat coming into the system. And I reckon every quarter probably 4 or 5 new items coming in every quarter. So I'm quite excited. Very excited. In terms of what we can deliver to our customers. In terms of real productivity stuff. Where they can, really sit back in terms of saving time and be more productive. That's what we're looking at.
No, that's really good. We've started to get some really good questions coming through, so thank you for those. So let me just start at the top. So we've had one through from Nand saying, basically, how does Expense on Demand give reminders to employees to actually submit their expenses rather than forgetting, and if they're not in the habit of submitting them straight away rather than piling up on a desk somewhere? Does it actually remind them to make sure that they've put them in?
Yeah. So we don't have a system right now, but what we are working on, which should probably happen by the end of the year, we're using a lot of AI, which actually what it does, it tracks your behavior. It'll tell people that this is what you claimed last month, and this is what is still missing, and also reminding them of the dates they normally would make their expenses, if they haven't made something. And it'll also remind, the finance team that, hey, so-and-so hasn't made a claim this month, or so is there something they're missing? So that's all being worked on right now, being tested, So the phone is a device of choice for us. So we're looking at the phone where, it really talks to the claimant who actually makes the expenses, hey, that, have you missed something out? This is, the way the supermarkets work when you're doing shopping. You bought milk last time, you haven't bought milk this time, stuff like that. So that's on the mobile, all that, and similarly on the finance team also, and if people are making more expenses than they would have normally made, it also gives them a warning that, hey, this person made this much more expense this month, maybe right, maybe wrong, who knows? But at least gives them a heads up, So we're doing all that stuff. It's being right now being tested, should be available probably end of this year or first quarter,
Yeah. That's really useful. Thank you very much for that. Just to touch on, I have a good question in from Yasin asking about liaising with the Expense on Demand team, more about offering it out to their clients. So Yasin, we've got your details. So what I'll do is we'll loop you in directly after to have a conversation about that, so you can liaise directly on that. So thanks for sending that in. Thanks, Yasin. We've got a good question that's come through from Rishi asking about the duplication of bills, which we touched on in terms of duplicates. So do you just want to go and touch on that again in terms of how the system handles that and the sort of science behind it, how it picks up duplicates and stops that from happening?
Yeah. So we give the the customer the mechanism where they can determine what categories or expense types they want to track duplicates on. So if there's a duplicate a claimant makes, it gives them a warning that there's a duplicate expense. Now it may be a genuine, if I've traveled say twice from into London in a day, I have to give justification, that look, this is what happened. I give all the detail, put the receipts and what have you, all those things. It also shows me when I flag the duplicate that I claimed the same expense on this day. The receipt also there. Okay. So if I can justify, I would send it forward to my approval. He or she can see all the receipts over there. They can say yes or no, and same with finance also. So it's just not the question of the duplicate, also should the receipt also. So the chances of duplicate become zero. You turn the function on and you can be sure that people will not, quote unquote, I'm going to use a crude word, fudge. We also have another function which was actually, asked by several of our customers, that where what was happening was that people were using the same receipt to claim that same expense. So somebody made a claim on the 1st of, say, the month, next person, somebody else, for the receipt and made the claim on the 15th, and so on. So we don't tell the approver, we inform the finance approver that there is a possibility of something not right over here because the same expense was claimed. by somebody else on this day. This is the receipt. Have a look at that, and then you make it. Then you decide whether it's a genuine or is it whatever it is. Yeah. So because we service customers globally, we get a lot of feedback from customers and different practices, and we try to make sure that we can handle all that stuff across it.
Yeah, no, that's really useful. Thanks for
that.
Yeah. So I've got a good final question that's come through. So in terms of getting started with Expense on Demand, is there a cost to getting it set up, and how does it work with getting trained up on the app?
So the 30-day free trial, okay, and there's no cost to that. And then there are videos everywhere we take you step by step, step 1, step 2, step 3. And, as both Usman and Aryan have mentioned, that it takes literally minutes to set up the system. And then if you start the basics, so you're looking at £1 per user per month, for example, a UK customer, or €1 per month for a European customer, and $1 US for the customer in the US and other countries. So we kept the cost at a number which sort of are very easy to digest, so as to say, and then you grow at buy more functions as you feel that they're going to add value to your system, as you learn more about the system, and you only, as I said, you only pay for stuff that really adds value to your company or your business. There's no hard selling, there's no upsell, none of that happens. The system will tell you based on your behavior that what you should be doing over here. We use a lot of AI and machine learning in the system, and it keeps on telling you what's happening. Then you can decide, how you want, what do you want to add over there, expense policy, whether you want to have pre-approvals, all those things, you can do all that stuff.
Yeah. That's good. So we've had a couple more questions come through, which we'll just touch on before we tie up. So thanks for that. So one that's just come through asking about, is there an email add-on that picks up expenses? Now, I think you touched on this earlier and said actually there's a forwarding email, isn't there? So you can actually just forward any emails that come in with expenses on. Is that correct?
Yeah, you forward it to receipts@ExpenseOnDemand.com.
Yeah.
It'll create an expense for you automatically as an incomplete expense. You just complete the expense, just select the expense type, the date and the amount, and submit the expense. You're done.
Yeah.
Now, having said that, I've simplified this point, but some customers also have, they want you to enter the, customer name or some other information, business purpose, and all those things, which you may need to do based on your own process. So you decide what you want from the claimant, but each item would be probably, I wouldn't say more than 25 seconds, 25 seconds. We're not talking of hours over here, not even minutes, just seconds over here.
Yeah, that's good. And the final question that we've got, so on average, how many hours do you think a company saves using Expense on Demand? So it's quite a broad question. Rishi here has asked about, say, for 50 people. I mean, have you got any stats on the amount of hours that it saves companies on average?
I'll give you 2 examples over here. We have a customer who are using an enterprise application. There are about 3,000 people they have. And they may not be right, but just give you to make, So we're going to move them onto Expense on Demand. They have a team of 4 people who are spending about 5 days in a week on that. We did the demo to them of the new system. And what I got from the discussion, 1 hour, 1 person in 1 month. That's it.
Yeah.
So if you're looking at a 50 people company, you're looking at maybe, I would say 1 hour. Just click our buttons, you're done. 1 hour in maybe starting, maybe a couple of hours starting, but in 3-4 months, you're looking at 1 hour. Now, if you're spending 3 days, 4 days, you can work out what savings you'll make.
Yeah.
I don't know how much time Usman spends every month, and I don't know how much time you guys spend every month on, completing the whole expense, process.
We do it once a week, so it's done as in maybe an hour for about 40 staff members, and that's done once a week, so 4 times a week. So we only spend like 4 hours for about 50 staff members.
Yeah. So if they did it probably once every 2 weeks, that'd be just 2 hours. Once a month, again, be 1 hour, not more than that.
Yeah. So I think the more you do, you still spend that 1 hour, whether you spend it once a week or twice or once every 2 weeks, you will kind of like spend roughly about that time.
Yeah, yeah. And Arun, what about you? Yeah.
Ooh, I didn't check on that one, but I think on an average, we were checking for at least 1 hour per team member, on those items, which is now, let's say, minutes. So it saved a lot of time.
You're saying you were spending 1 hour per member earlier before expense on demand?
Exactly.
Wow.
Exactly.
Okay.
Because we had to check, verify whether it was spent or not, compare the dates, all that paperwork, then put it in the system. And now it's just a quick check and export, and it's done.
So if you had 50 people, you're looking at 50 hours a month, literally.
Yes.
Now you're looking at 1 hour. Okay, that's very interesting. I wasn't aware of those stats. That's very interesting. I'll get one of our people to speak to you later on to get this number from you. This will be great. And thank you very much. I think you really made my day.
Yeah, it's a good case study, that one, isn't it? Yeah. So, well, thank you everybody for your questions. That was really good. Some really good ones that have come through. And I just want to say thank you again to our guests, Usman and Arjan, for jumping on. We really appreciate your time today. So just to confirm, we will be following this webinar up with an email out. So we'll have links in there to include how to sign up for that 30-day free trial. And thank you for everybody on the poll as well. There's some really good interest on there. People wanting to sign up and use Expense on Demand and give it a go. So that's really good. And just to confirm as well, we will iterate this in the email out, but you do get your CPD points for watching this webinar today. So make sure you keep a note of that, ready for when you fill your CPD register in and share it again with any of your colleagues. We will send around a link with the recording of it in as well. So if you want to go back over, refresh your memory on any points of the webinar today, then you can do so after the event as well. And if you've got any questions, then you can, once we email out, if you respond to the contact details within there as well, we'll make sure that gets straight through to Expense on Demand and they can get back in touch with you. So thank you very much for today. Thank you very much, everybody, for jumping on and listening. Hope you have a great rest of your Tuesday and a great rest of your week as well. And yeah, thank you very much. And thank you, Sunil, as well.
Usman and Aryan, thank you very much for your time, guys. And
thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks a lot, guys. Have a great day and enjoy the week. Whatever.
Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.